Hi, this is Bonnie Barker with BonnieBabeCrochet.com, and this is video number 2 on the granny square slippers. Let me go ahead and show you. This is the slipper. It's a little bit of a pointy toe here. This is the slipper that we're going to be making. Okay, so we've got all our granny squares ready to go, and the first thing you're going to need to do is get your needle and go ahead and thread it with your yarn. You can just go ahead and use the yarn that you've used. This is why I like to also, whenever you design your granny square slippers, go ahead and make sure you end, with the same color with all your rounds, because that way it's a great way to hide what we're about to do here. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the front sides facing. Okay, so this is going to be the back side that we're looking at here, and take your large square and then just put the little one up like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to join in this corner, and we're going to not slip stitch. We're going to, we're going to use the whip stitch. I'm sorry, I got to use sewing terms now and not crochet terms. We're going to use the whip stitch, which is where you go around and around and around from this corner up here to right down here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'm going to join it in the chain. And what I like to do, I like to knot the end. Now make sure you leave enough yarn on the end of this so that you can reinsert the needle here, so when we start hiding all these loose ends to finish. Okay, so I'm going to just split the thread there. You see what I did there? There are 4 strands to this. There are a lot of different ways to do it. I just went ahead and did that to join it. Now for the whip stitch in sewing, I try to line up the 3 clusters. I'm just going to go around and around like so. Try not to ruin my photo studio in the process. Okay, so I'm just going to go around, and I'm going to go through the 2 strands of the chain. And some of you more experienced seamstresses out there probably maybe even have a better way to do this, but this is what I do. I like to sew it together. I think you can probably slip stitch it together, but I think that's going to be a thicker seam than what you really want for shoes, for slippers. So let me go ahead and let me get to the corner and around. I'm going to go ahead and continue my whip stitch up and around to this point, and then I'll show you what I have. Okay, now let me show you what I've done so far. Okay, we have our square. I've sewn using the whip stitch up to the top and to the side. Now what we're going to do, we have this corner here. I'm going to put that inside. Actually, I'm going to put that loop outside. We're going to bring these 2 corners together. Do you see that? I'm going to continue to go along this next side here. Okay, let's go ahead. I'll show you. Being careful to line up the stitches here. I've already done one of the chains, so I'm going to just do the double crochets together. Pull this thread out so I can hide it later. Okay. This is a little tricky. I don't have a quick or easy way to do this. It's just all right. So let me go ahead. I'm going to finish all the way to this corner, and then I'll show you the next. Okay, so it's a quick review. We've done up this side and over, what we first did. Then we folded this other end up over here. Now we're going to bring this corner up right like this to the corner, as you can see. Okay, I'm going to continue sewing with my thread that has just finished this side. So I'm going to go ahead and get this right like so, and continue. Okay, so if this will help you see, this is going to be where the toe goes, just right inside here. Okay, so I'm sewing up this edge here, again using the whip stitch. So let me go ahead and finish this seam, and then I'll show you what I have. Okay, now that I've finished this seam, I'm going to go ahead and just finish it off with the slip knot or two. Okay, now I'm going to run it under some yarn, run it under some stitches, make it a little bit easier to hide this stitch later on. Okay, so at least I'll have an extra stitch here hidden. Go ahead and clip that. Okay, now the next thing we're going to want to do, we have 2 more to sew on. Okay, we're going to put one on the heel in the back. Now remember, front side to the front side, and we'll just line up the corner like so. Okay, so what you might want to do is line up these clusters. That'll be the best way to do that. So line up, start with this chain 1 and this chain 2 space here. Let me get some more yarn. Okay, just a little more reference here. Okay, here's the toe. Okay, here's the back of the heel, front sides together. We line up the stitches. I'm going to go ahead and start with this chain 2. I'm going to join it with this chain 1 right here in the corner. Okay. Okay, and continue on lining up the stitches just like so. Okay, so let me just show you where I'm headed with this. This is the heel. I'm gonna slip stitch together, up and down, and then I'm going to stop. So we're just doing 2 sides here. Let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what I have. I just finished sewing this seam to the heel. So far, this is what you have. Now there's just one more that you're going to sew on, and it's going to go right here. Okay, again, take the front side, put it down, and we're going to sew the last seam. Okay, here's the heel way up here. The last seam is going to be kind of like it opens. Let me show you the slipper. This one that's completed. This might be kind of hard to understand. So this one that we're sewing on next goes right here, and we're going to line it up to this seam here. I even have to oftentimes look at these a couple times before I understand how to construct them. So here we go. This is the heel. So we're going to join this seam. Again, line up the clusters, okay, so that they're even. And then this cluster will go here. This cluster we're going to line up way over here. So we're going to have to, close off this center a bit. So let's go ahead and get started with our whip stitch. That's the only sewing stitch you're going to need to worry with on these. Okay. Oops, I guess it would help to tie a knot so I don't pull that all the way through. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this last seam. Again, I'm going to go up and then down, connecting it, and by the time we finish this end should be right to where the heel begins. I'll go ahead and finish that seam and show it to you. Okay, I've just finished sewing this seam on. So now, for all practical purposes, we are finished, although it looks a little rough because we have a lot of strands. Let me show you how to hide. I'm going to just demonstrate with one, and you can do this with all of the strands that are left behind. Okay, you can try to run it under some seams like so. Do this with the back side facing. There's no real rules to how to do this. It's just that you want to hide the strands so that they're secure and so that they are well hidden. So I'm going to do that and then clip that. And of course I've got several more to do. But rather than bore you with that, let me show you one other thing. Suppose now, like this one is awfully short, and I should have made that longer. And in that case, what you can do is you can run your yarn hook under the stitches first, where you want them to be hidden. Okay, this is the secret to doing that. And then thread the hook, thread the eye of the needle, just like so, and then just give it a little tug. Whoops. And then that works real well for the really short strands. So go ahead, thread your needle where you want it to go, or rather stick the needle into the work, and then thread the eye of the needle and then pull it through. That works for the really short strings, but try not to leave them too short. Now let me turn it inside out and show you what we have. Okay, and notice that when you use the same color for the seaming as you used for the last round of your granny squares, you really don't see the seams much at all. It works out really well. So even though I still have seams to hide, see, your foot would go right in like this. Okay, and it works really well. And these are a lot of fun. I want to give credit to Mrs. Shirley Mauer, who actually came up with this pattern. She's a dear friend of my mom's, and every year she sends my mom a box of these slippers for her feet. And my mom has diabetes, so does my friend who makes these, and this really helps to keep her feet warm in the wintertime, and actually she wears them all year round. One other thing, again, these are cotton. They will wear well. If you want to use acrylic, that's fine. Wool works well too, but keep in mind that if you shuffle around the floor with wool slippers, you're going to get shocked if you're living up in the north where there's not a lot of humidity to dissipate the charge. So in case you wondered where that shock was coming from, if you're wearing wool socks, that's probably where. Anyway, I hope you really enjoy this. I hope you can bless a lot of people with this. Take care. Bye-bye.